Manu Dibango. Who was this outstanding artist? Born on December 12, 1933, in Douala, Cameroon, under the full name of Emmanuel Njoke Dibango, he stood out as a renowned composer, a multi-instrumentalist with a passion for the saxophone, and also as a radio host, among other talents. From a Christian family, he discovered his vocal talent in the temple choir, occasionally led by his mother. After obtaining his certificate of studies in Cameroon, his parents sent him to continue his education in France in 1949. At the young age of 15, he on a 21-day sea journey to his French host family in Saint-Calais, a small village far from the city. During a summer camp, he met Francis Bebe, who introduced him to Afro-American jazz. Together, they formed a small group, each exploring their favorite instrument. Although he initially saw music as a hobby, Manu learned the mandolin and piano even before discovering the saxophone, which would later become his inseparable instrument. In 1956, Manu made the bold decision to try his luck in Brussels. Through a friend, he secured a job at Taboo, a trendy cabaret in the Belgian capital. It was there that he met Coco, who would become his wife. A few weeks later, an opportunity arose in the form of a mini-tour with an orchestra on American bases in Europe. After performances at the Moulin Rouge in Ostend and Scotch in Antwerp, he signed a 2-year contract at Chat Noir in Charleroi in 1958. In 1960, the talented saxophonist joined Les Anges Noirs, a popular Brussels club, where he later became the conductor. This opportunity not only allowed him to meet several African personalities during independence negotiations but also to explore true African music. The decisive encounter with Joseph Kabasile in African jazz opened the doors of modern Congolese music to Manu. Steeped in jazz after years in Europe, he reconnected with the sounds of the African continent, giving rise to a fruitful collaboration that resulted in the release of several successful records. After a dynamic interlude with African soul, a fusion of jazz, rumba, and Latin rhythms, Manu decided to settle in Kinshasa with his wife. Successfully leading the Afro-Negro Club, he simultaneously toured with the African Jazz Group. Together, Manu and his wife realized several projects, including the creation of their own establishment in Kinshasa. Later, they made a brief stop in Cameroon before settling in France. Manu then worked at the St. Cast Casino in Brittany, first in Dick Rivers' orchestra, a major star of the 1960s, and later in Nino Ferrer's orchestra, where he later assumed the role of conductor. Papa Groove's career peaked in 1972 when he composed an anthem that became the biggest African hit, Sul Makossa, for the 8th African Cup of Nations. Although the piece was not initially well received, it gained attention in the United States after airing on radios and ranking in some hit parades. He then negotiated a U.S. tour, including a performance at the famous Apollo Theater in Harlem in 1973, and at the end of that same year, he had his first concert at the Olympia in Paris, which was a triumph. Manu's success in the United States and his growing fame elevated him to the status of a talented artist, marking a new era in his career. Sul Makossa sold over 50,000 copies in France, further propelling the notoriety of this exceptional talent. It was after the release of Sul Makossa that Africans began to market their records in France. This piece was also remixed in the United States, notably by artists like Michael Jackson in the 1980s and singer Rihanna in 2009. Manu played a crucial role in the African and global music scene, leaving an indelible mark that influenced many artists and shaped the international music scene. In addition to his famous Sul Makossa, he released several successful albums, exploring various musical genres and collaborating with artists worldwide. His major contribution lies in introducing African rhythms to global popular music. Furthermore, he was a radio host for 20 years on Africa Radio. Manu Dibango was also recognized for his involvement in social and humanitarian causes. He used his fame to raise awareness about issues such as poverty, human rights, and development in Africa. In 2013, he released his final album titled Ballade en Saxo. In 2019, he celebrated 60 years of his career with the Safari Symphonique concert series. Papa Groove received several honors, including the UNESCO Artist for Peace in 2004, the title of Knight of the Legion of Honor in 2010, and the designation as the Grand Witness of the Francophonie at the Rio Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2016, among others. His passing in 2020 was a major loss for the world of music, but his legacy endures through his continued influence on the global music scene. Manu Dibango will be remembered as one of the pioneers of modern African and global music. Hats off to the artist. Thank you, Papa Manu.